With the midterms less than 2 weeks away, it might have finally dawned on someone in the White House that the economy is the primary issue for the average working family as they consider how they're going to vote. Now, in a speech this morning intended to promote initiatives the Biden administration claims will deliver breathing room to the American people, the president also predicted gas prices will go down. But since it's the president's own policies that created the current energy crisis, could a thumping for his party in the midterms lead to a change in direction for the country? Joining me now to discuss this and much more, Congressman Pat Fallon. He serves on the House Armed Services Committee and the House Oversight Committee. He represents the 4th Congressional District of the Lone Star State. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Tony, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. So, Pat, your response or your reaction to the president's remarks today, giving the American people some breathing room.
I mean, I think Joe Biden is living in an alternative universe, Tony. The reason why gas prices are as high as they are, I mean, they were $2.38 when President Trump enjoyed his last day in office, and now they're on average, it varies every day, about $3.90 a gallon. So that's about 60% higher than it was before. The day one, Joe Biden said, you know what, we're not going to have the Keystone XL pipeline. We're going to nix that. That would have provided 830,000 barrels of oil a day. The world uses about 100 million barrels. So it was roughly 1% of the world's supply. He said he's not interested in exploiting. And then in that first week, he said, we're not going to issue any new leases to drill on federal lands and in federal waters. That's going to have a consequence. And then throughout the last 22 months, his administration and his allies on the Hill have declared open war on American energy through increased regulations and fees, et cetera. And they're really demonizing them. So the reason why gas is as much as it is, if you see those little stickers, I did that with Joe Biden. He did it, Tony. He did it.
I have seen those stickers, and I think it keeps the gas station attendants pretty busy trying to take them off. I want to play a couple more clips of the president, and I want to ask you to help explain this to me because I'm having a hard time tracking what he's saying. Play clip number 3.
Gas prices in the decade before the pandemic were averaging $3.30 before the pandemic, before I got here. During the pandemic, no one was driving, so the gas prices went down.
Okay. So it's the fact that we were in a pandemic and no one was driving. That's why we had affordable gas during the 4 years of President Trump, right?
You know, that is really some classic Bill Clinton type spin. You know, they got in a room, I'm sure, and said, okay, how are we going to spin this? All right, what was the highest day of gas prices in the 4 years of President Trump? We'll say that's what it was before the pandemic. I also remember it being about $1.85 before the pandemic. And they just conveniently left that out. It's selective information. And it's really, it's completely out of context, as we know. But it was a good try, a Hail Mary that prayer didn't get answered.
But, I would say it's flat out deception. Yeah. And that's what this administration is engaging in. You know, we hear the term gaslighting, and I think that's what they're doing to the American people. They're thinking that the American people are stupid. And I hope they see something different at the polls here in less than 2 weeks. I want to move on to another topic, Congressman Fallon. The Department of State. You know, we live in no question, the most dangerous, unstable time since before World War II. And so our State Department focused on trying to get world peace, order? No. They're focused on launching this 10 days for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. The Secretary of State, Blinken, says this is mission imperative. And as I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, it ends with a game of Jeopardy. How do you respond to that?
Mission imperative from Secretary Blinken. You know what should be mission imperative, Tony? Concerning ourselves with, the largest land invasion in Europe since World War II. A nuclear Iran should be mission imperative to prevent that from happening. North Korea increasingly aggressive and rattling their saber, and China looking licking their chops, looking out across the seas at Taiwan, but also infiltrating at every every opportunity trying to destabilize our country. And, they're bent on world hegemony. So recognizing those realities should be what the State Department is focused on. Instead, anytime the left uses diversity, it's really a code for leftist indoctrination because it's their religion, if you will, for the secularists. And it's the last thing that the State Department should be focusing on now is all this wokeism.
There was a time, Congressman Fallon, when we had the luxury of engaging in this nonsense because the world wasn't as volatile and America still had the impression of being a strong nation. But as we've seen the wokeness, as you made reference to, overtake our military, we saw the debacle of the withdrawal from Afghanistan. The world now knows the curtain's been pulled back. America is being run by clowns. And so we are very vulnerable. And so to engage in more of this ideological indoctrination, I'm concerned about the state of our country in terms of national security. And as you talked about China, Russia, there are a lot of evil nations out there that are just looking for the right opportunity.
Yeah, it's the new axis of evil is, Iran is sending drones and military training. They're doing some military training, the reports that I just read recently in Crimea for the Russians. And they still have, this administration still is negotiating with Iran. We're heading a letter right now to the president demanding that he cease all contact with Iran right now. The American people are pouring billions of dollars into the fight against the Russian aggression, and they're still trying to coddle the Iranian regime, particularly when there's a lot of instability within Iran that we should supporting, fully to the fullest extent that we're capable of. And I'm really dismayed and shocked that this administration would use every means at their disposal to politicize the military, the State Department, and other, we've seen it with the FBI as well. They're using American taxpayer dollars. This is illegal, it's immoral, and it's terribly unethical.
Congressman, final question for you. We're almost up against a break. I'm going to be talking about this a little later in the program. That is the lame duck session of Congress. How concerned are you about the upcoming lame duck session?
Well, Tony, as you mentioned in your monologue, I'm very concerned, very much so. Thank God for the filibuster, because there's going to be so much garbage being passed out of the House, and the Democrats will blindly follow Nancy Pelosi like lemmings off the cliff. And it's really the only bulwark is going to be the Senate filibuster.
Well, there is going to be a lot that needs to be stopped because they are teed up for this one. Congressman Pat Fallon, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Tony. God bless.